this week's episode of Tokyo Ghoul Route A, Kaneki is now a member of the mysterious Aogiri group, Toka finally returns to school, and Amon actually gets a brand new partner in this week's episode, and big shock, it's actually Kureo Mato's daughter, the character who was actually hinted at in the first season, and they're actually bringing her back to the forefront, and surprise, surprise, she's very much like her father. She's definitely the standout character who was introduced in this week's episode. She's very OCD about a lot of things, though. She has a very strict schedule, she has very deep insight and intuition, and this actually makes her a fantastic investigator. It just makes her a little standoffish and not exactly the most sociable of persons. And Amon is trying his best to sort of warm up with her, but it's just not really working at all, and I just can't wait to see a little bit more of the interactions with her and the investigator team, which really took a lot of the precedence in this week's episode. They were doing a lot of focusing on them and getting ready to prepare them for this very big war that's getting ready to go on between the Aogiri group, the Owl, and the Ghoul's investigators. And there's also that other weird character by the name of, I believe, Juza, who is that one character who has the weird little, like, markings all over his body. He's a very strange, odd character. I don't know what they're doing with this guy, if they were just leaving it up in the air for something that happened in the manga, but they did follow up on his character a little bit this week when we saw him in last week's episode dragging out dead bodies from the big explosion, as ridiculous and somewhat funny as that was. But another thing about this episode is that they basically just give away who the Owl is. And I was hinting at in the previous episode that it could be the owner of the Onteku coffee shop, and it's like 99% confirmed in this week's episode, because they're talking about him. There's a whole flashback where you get to see the original Ghoul investigator team going up against the Owl, and he's a little younger, he's a little bigger, more powerful, and there's even this one member of the group who goes by the name of Arima, who apparently is going to be the leader of the group, but they hold off on showing too much of him in this week's episode. But the flashback is cool because we actually get to see a much younger and less crazier looking version of Mato, and that is something that I kind of wish was translated over to his daughter. It would look a little strange, her with her weird bug eyes and everything, but that was something that was just very, you know, unique to his character, especially in the first season. But still, she does have a lot of his personality, and it is perfect that she is going to be partnered with Amon. However, I think my favorite thing about this week's episode was the final 3 minutes of the episode, which was just a big montage, and it was very symbolic, because you got to see a lot of scenes where Kaneki was working with the Aogiri group, and they were doing some sort of attack on these humans, and even let one of them go. And really, it's just amounting to watching them just walk around looking like badasses, and just trying not to get caught by the Ghoul investigators and the police. But at the same time, you have the Onteku coffee shop, which is just now having its grand reopening, and you have the old man who finally comes in, and they do that great transition where they're talking about the Owl, and then they go directly to him as he's getting ready to open up the shop. And it's very similar to the last episode, where, like, you know an episode's going to end when the music starts to kick in, and you can just feel like the credits are going to roll any moment. And that's pretty much just what happens at the end, just all of the different members getting ready to group up together and get ready for this big war. Although there was one moment that really made me double take, and I hope a lot of people saw it too. There's this one scene at the very end of the episode where you see these two ghouls who are hanging out on a bridge, and they're wearing these masks, which look a lot like the Toby mask from Naruto. They have this like swirly design on it. And when they take off their masks for a second, they each only have a single ghoul eye. And there's only one other character, to my knowledge, in the series who also has that condition, and that's Kaneki himself. And I cannot wait to see how that's actually going to tie into him, because these are two characters we don't know anything about. I'm pretty sure that they're with the Aogiri group, but I couldn't even tell you what Aogiri is all about. It's completely mysterious. So what's the rundown? On this week's episode of Tokyo Ghoul Route A, it was a pretty good episode. It probably wasn't the big action fest that we were all hoping to see from the first episode, but I did like it because it gave us like a good opportunity to get used to seeing all these characters again and establishing who all these new characters are going to be, and yet there's still a little bit of mystery in the air. And I would fault them for the fact that they're not giving us any of the Kaneki story yet, but at the same time, I think it's really clever that they're holding back on that, because it's going to get butts in seats, and it's going to get people to watch this series. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with him, and Kaneki pretty much had zero dialogue this week, so just, I want to know where that's going. I want to know why he's made such a drastic decision to join this group, and why it's so important to him here, and Obviously, there are some small hints to the fact that he is slightly more merciful than the other members of Aogiri group when he did let that one human go and just decided to walk away. But still, there's a lot of cool shots of him. If you just want to see badass shots of Kaneki wearing his mask and hanging out on rooftops, this episode is for you. There is a small amount of development, too, between Toka and her friend. Basically, it's just showing her getting back to her school life, which is nice because it shows she's finally adjusting to all of the crazy stuff that's happening and maybe starting to get over the fact that Kaneki has decided to essentially join the Ginyu force of the series. But otherwise, I think the best thing about this week's episode is that final shot at the very end where you get to see the different teams coming together, the mysterious ghouls, and of course the introduction of Akira Mato, who I think is going to be a great character, and sort of gives off that whole, like, Mulder Scully vibe from X-Files, you know, her partnered up with Amon. I did tease and make fun of the fact that both, you know, Amon and Mato did remind me of X-Files in the first season, and I would have personally loved to just see a whole show just about them going on adventures and doing that stuff, kind of like in the X-Files, and that's what I liked about this episode too. But still, it was just kind of a standard episode, a sort of calm before the storm, reintroducing us to the characters, because last week's episode was just insane, and this was basically the type of buffer that we needed. However, I'm really excited for the future of the series, especially where they're going with this whole Kaneki story, the return of the owl, and maybe even getting to learn a little bit more about Rize's backstory, which was slightly hinted at in this week's episode, and they're also hinting at the fact that it was the Aogiri tree that actually took her out. And this, of course, all leads into the origins of Kaneki's powers as well, so everything certainly is coming full circle. The animation, the artwork this week was pretty nice, clean, and consistent, but there really weren't any scenes this week that are going to blow you away in terms of the animation. Just kind of a standard episode right here. But everything looked really nice. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 3 out of 5. Just an average episode of the series, but still one that is very entertaining for fans of the series, and one that you should definitely check out if you're planning on following the second season of Tokyo Ghoul Route A. Check it out, guys. Pretty cool stuff. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And before you guys leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Tokyo Ghoul Route A. What did you think of the introduction of the character of Akira Mato? And what is up with Kaneki? Why did he join Aogiri? And what do you guys want to see from the rest of the second season of Tokyo Ghoul? Remember, if you guys have not subscribed to our channel, you can do that by clicking on the channel icon right up here. It's really easy to do. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, and if you're so inclined, you can directly donate to us through our PayPal link, but the best way to support us is to watch our videos and to use our Amazon bookmark link. Whenever you buy something on Amazon, use that as your bookmark link. Whenever you buy something, whether it be anime, manga, DVDs, video games, it will help support our channel, and we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you guys again for watching. Super Kami Guru 9000 out.